We're learning more tonight about the murder investigation of 16-year-old Preston Lord. Our crews have been going over more than 1,100 pages worth of police reports detailing the evidence detectives and prosecutors have gathered over the last 5 months.
So far, 7 people are facing charges for that deadly attack outside a Halloween house party in Queen Creek. The documents we got this week lay out a timeline of how quickly police were able to identify their suspect. Alexis Dominguez is here now. Alexis, you and a lot of our staff have been looking through everything, and it seems like they learned pretty early on who their key suspects are in this case.
Yeah, and really one of the most criticized aspects of this case is why it took so long to even get some of these suspects into handcuffs. Now, we know that Talon Vigil was already considered a person of interest after day 1 of the investigation, and at least 2 others were also almost immediately tied to Preston Lord's death. The most incriminating evidence in this case was their own words.
But I see a lot of violence and a lot of stuff going on in these vehicles.
A Halloween party turned out of control. New documents from the Queen Creek Police Department explain several fights took place that October night before Preston Lord was brutally beaten. Hundreds of teens were at this party, and investigators asked several witnesses to detail what happened. But many of those witnesses changed their stories or were not consistent, some admitting they talked to police but didn't tell the truth. Attorney Russ Richelsoph says that will make this difficult for both the prosecutor and the defense team.
How good a witness is a teenager going to be, especially if that teenager's been drinking, and then if they did go back and clarify statements later, what were those clarifications?
Multiple search warrants were served 2 weeks after the attack. Police took clothing, cell phones, and other electronic devices, even DNA evidence. Documents say Talon Renner posted a recording of himself saying he punched a kid and he didn't know his own strength. And police noted bruises on his hand at school. In the documents, someone tipped police. Renner's attorney advised the family to let Talon's hands heal before bringing him back into town.
As long as there's no court order in place, it's okay to tell a client to not make themselves visible, to not talk to people about what happened. The second an attorney gets into a situation where they're telling a client to violate a court order, or they're telling a client to destroy or alter evidence, that is a problem.
The documents also shed light on witness interviews. People gave names of teens witnesses believe are part of the Gilbert Goons, which includes suspects in this case, a group the county attorney is investigating as a possible street gang. Richelsoph believes they could qualify.
If they get guilty verdicts in these cases, that they're going to allege criminal street gang as an aggravating factor.
By December, police identified at least 6 suspects: William Owen Hines, Jacob Meisner, Talon Renner, Tristan Billy, Dominic Turner, and Talon Vigil. At the time, they knew Taylor Sherman was involved, but he hadn't been listed as a suspect. In March, he was eventually indicted along with his co-defendants. Really, time and time again, we heard County Attorney Rachel Mitchell say prosecutors were combing through hundreds and hundreds of interviews and evidence, and we really now know that the investigation is still ongoing. Some of the most recent interviews even took place just about a week ago today.
Yeah, so it's interesting that we're getting these documents now to go over. And you talk about the damning digital evidence against them. It's interesting, you were saying there's a shift from them threatening other teens to almost turning against one another.
Yeah, so there are some pieces of evidence that we're taking from Snapchat and text messages that show that some of these suspects were saying that they wanted in on the $10K that the FBI was offering as a reward. Yeah, so that's pretty shocking to hear that these kids now started to ask their parents, like, how can we go ahead and report this anonymously, turning on each other. And there's even some text messages that say some of these suspects' parents wanted in on this money. So it's just crazy to see how they went from, like you said, threatening other kids to now basically going against each other.
And to be clear, Snapchat's mentioned a number of times. People use Snapchat because the messages disappear. So did somebody screen grab those messages or take photos of them? How did that come into play? Do we know?
We do know that there are screenshots, and we also know that Snapchat worked with police to go ahead and turn over this information. So whether they, some of this evidence can be taken back after it's gone away or deleted. You know, I think officers have said that they're able to do that in an investigation. If they find that, you know, something has been deleted, they're usually able to get that back.
And they got a search warrant the day after he passed away. So, Alexis, great job following up on those new details. Thank you.
If you'd like to see the entire timeline of events laid out in this police report, in these interviews and statements, or any of our extensive coverage on this case, head to azfamily.com or download our AZFamily news app. It's all posted there as well.